today we're going to have a powerful story as we're going to be speaking with Oluwakemi. Yes, Oluwakemi Sheba. And she's all the way in Africa. But it doesn't matter where you are, where you're from. It doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity. You all have stories that can become very inspirational to those who might be going through similar experiences. And so today, Oluwakemi Sheba from Africa is going to share her story with us. And I sincerely hope that you will be inspired, motivated, and engaged. Sheba, we continue with her story. Now, she spoke about the accident. She spoke about the fact that had it not been for her uncle who had his ID on his person to say that he is a doctor, she herself doesn't know if she would be here today, because it was that and that alone that saved them, that gave them the opportunity to get a bed in the hospital so that they could be attended to. We continue with this story from Oluwakemi. So, Kimi, now that you have gone through days at the hospital, you have been discharged. I want you to tell us a little bit of how you overcame the trials, because now you're going into adulthood, teenager, adulthood. How did you overcome the trials and now become what I want to call you, an ambassador of change?
Thank you, darling. I need to confess this. It wasn't easy. From that point on, I had from 0 to 4, like I said, my childhood between 0 to 4 was a bit uneventful, but after my accident, like I said, my life altered. So from then on, when we got back and I had to grow into a young woman, primary, secondary, university, the journey was tough. You know how kids can be. You know how some insensitive adults can be. You know how people
Yes.
can on your self-esteem. I won't lie. For a long time, I had self-esteem issues up to the point that I entered the university. It was one person that I would want to say like my guardian angel. He didn't even know up till a few years ago that he was the person that God used to bring me up and out of that deep heat, I would like to call it at that time. Primary school, going to school every day was hellish. You know how kids can be. Look at her mouth, look at her eyes. She's looking there to throw things at me to see the direction in which my eyes would roll. They would say something that would warrant everybody to laugh. And when I laughed, I became a laughing stock, so to speak. I went through all of primary school like that. Secondary school, it was the same thing. Going to school every day was hard because the ridicule was a bit too much for me. I I broke down at some points. I had some psychological breakdown at some points. When I pieced it together as I grew older, I picked that it was psychological breakdowns. But as a younger child, I didn't know what it was. I would cry sometimes that I didn't want to go to school. I would get to school and I would just be in my shell because I didn't want to open my mouth to speak, because opening my mouth to speak was going to elicit bouts of laughter from the other kids. But academically, I did well. I remember my Jess's one, from my Jess's one, we had this thing that we used to, that the government used to do back then. They called it gifted children. In the whole arm of Jess's one, I think we were over 200 children then, I'll call us children. And I was between number 1 to 15 out of 200 children. We went for competitions, we won prizes, but that didn't stop me from being laughed at. But I did well academically. And when I look at my secondary school, one of the things that I prided myself on as an achievement for secondary school was when we did our high school exams. I had that was one of the selling points for me that made me think that yes, there was something about me. When we did our WAEC, like we call it in Nigeria, I had A1 in literature. And it was a big deal for me, because I felt that I had, at least for the first time in my life, I had won something. Other people had people to look at them, when we're growing up, young ladies, and growing into adulthood, the teenage guy, girl thing. And I didn't have people look my way. I really felt
And
ugly.
you are, yeah, yeah.
I felt really ugly. I felt unloved. I always think at the back of my mind that who was ever gonna love me? Who would ever want to be seen with someone like me? It ate deep into me. I did have friends, but for me, it wasn't genuine. I felt it wasn't genuine, but some
Why
of
did
them
you
said,
why did you feel your friends weren't genuine? What made you feel that way?
because a lot of times, you know how children could be. I could still hear gist behind that. This person said this, that person said that, that person laughed at me and said, what good could come out of me? They will go to, we used to have something back then that they called the Literary and Debating Society. They would go there, people would talk, people would interact, we'll have boys coming. I went to a girls only secondary school. Um, People, students from other schools will come in, boys only secondary schools, mixed schools. And for some of those things, a lot of those things, people were paired up. They had boys they used to talk to. But when those events were happening, you can imagine where I always was, in a corner, all by myself. No one walked up to me and said, hello, what's your name? I'd like to meet you. My name is, what every girl dreamed of when she was a younger child. I was just there. I have, it was later I started realizing that I have a very good, my best friend now, we met in secondary school just as one. I can say that about 2 or 3 of them before the others fell by the wayside. It's just that one person that we're together now since 1989, and we're still very good friends now. So we understand each other so much. 32 years of friendship. She
Wow.
understands. Yes, 32 years of friendship. My best friend. She understands me. I understand her, and that was the only person I could say that we connected at that point. All through my university days, when I write about my stories and secondary school of heart, when I wanted to enter the university, I know what I wrote in my jam, I know the schools I picked, but I was just like, can you imagine picking a school and praying that the school will not come through?
Crazy.
I picked one of the most glamorous schools in Nigeria. And the went to collect our results. My heart was just beating. I was like, may this not come true, may this not come true, may this not come true. But when I got my admission, it did come true.
Wow.
It did come true. Home, and I told my mom I wasn't going to that school. At that point in time in Nigeria, it was it still is one of the most prestigious schools in Nigeria, the University of Lagos. And I was like, no, I wasn't going. I know what I went through in secondary school. So for me to go to that kind of school and continue the ridicule, it wasn't going to happen. I did everything to get a change of course and a change of institution rather. But I guess God didn't want it to work out. I wanted to go somewhere far away, somewhere obscure that I felt people won't know me. People won't ridicule me. People won't want to make fun of me when they see me, at least in a world of my own. But my mom said no. My dad said no. That you know what happened to you. We cannot allow you out of our sights. It was hard. I'm glad I listened to them and I thought long and hard about it. And I went to that school, and that was where I had that life transforming event that turned me to the person I am today.
So you said that that school, the University of Lagos in Nigeria? That's a
yes,
school.
Please.
Right,
yes.
Right. Kudos to the University of Lagos. I know some persons from that university will be listening, so big up to you. Yes. Right. So you went to that university and you said it was when you were at that university, you felt a little bit more comfortable because that is when your life changed. That is when you started becoming Oluwakemi. And that is when you felt some semblance of acceptance, right?
Exactly. With an encounter with one of my mentors then in church, after I'd entered the University of Lagos, he made me see that there was a purpose for me going through that school. Let me bring it to the genesis of that change when I was in that school, when I had to rewrite my story while I was in that school. I remember the first semester, and towards the end of the second semester, I would enter the classroom. I was a lone ranger. My inferiority complex was, if there was anything like 0.0 minus 0.001, that was what my inferiority complex level was like. Because I felt that I couldn't compete with anybody. I couldn't relate. They wouldn't see me as a human being. Somebody actually told me when he started talking to me later, when I had stood my ground and said, this is me. If you like me for me, you stay with me. If you do not like me, you can take a walk. The person actually told me that he actually thought when we started school that I was a retard.
Wow.
And it hurt me big time. So if he saw me in that light, I wonder how many other people saw me in that light as well. From first semester to end of second semester, year one, I would enter the classroom from the back. I never entered the lecture rooms from the front. I would always enter the classroom from the back, sit at the back by myself, take my notes. And once the lecturer said the last word, and I took my notes, and I got one thing I had with me was up to the lecturer's final full stop, I would get it. I was that fast. when I get the final full stop,
Mm-hmm.
before the pack their books, I am out and nobody sees me.
Wow.
Nobody
You're
sees me.
you were practically hiding.
Exactly. I was a lone
Hiding.
ranger.
All right. I want to ask you this though. What was most important? What was most important for you in life back then, and how did you keep yourself whole?
Yes, that brings me to how I kept myself whole. It was that encounter with my mentor then. He was a mentor in church actually. Second semester we were on holidays and we went for a church program. And some of the kids in church, they made fun of me as usual. And as usual, like since my early childhood days, tears were my companion. The tears started again while I was in church for that program. And he saw me sitting in the corner all by myself again. And he called me and he was like, "What is wrong with you?" And as soon as I opened my mouth, it was with tears and a quavering voice. And he just told me, "Young lady, relax and talk to me. I want to listen to you." And I would like to say something at this point. Every person needs someone they can talk to, someone they can connect with, someone they can draw strength from. I drew strength from him that day. He didn't know this until a very long time later. He
Mm-hmm.
told me to sit down. And the first question he asked me was, "When you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see?"
What do you
Oh my,
see? What
you
do you see? Mm-hmm.
asked me. And man, he released another torrent of tears. And he was like, "I'm so ugly. I feel like God should just kill me. I want to die. What am I doing in
Wow.
this world? I wonder why my mom didn't allow me to go. She should have allowed me to go when this." And he was, he had to take a decisive step at that point. He just shouted me down, "Shut up and listen to me." Still sniffling, I kept quiet. And he was like, I guess it was God's wisdom speaking through him that day. He was like, "When you get home, into your closet, kneel down and ask God for forgiveness." He was like, "Let me tell you what I see." He now said, "You know you're tall, right?" I said, "Yes, actually, I'm tall for a woman. I think I'm 5'8" or 5'9". He said, "Do you know how many women would die to have your height?" I stopped and looked at him. He said, "Do you know you have a very beautiful figure?" Then I wanted to agree with him, but that place inside of me could not receive any compliment. I shook my head that no, telling him with the shake of my head that he was lying. He was like, "You have a very good figure that people would love to have." He said, "How many things had he told me now?" I said, "2." He said, "Did you know that if you come into a room, the way you speak and the way you carry yourself, it commands a presence and it exudes confidence?" I actually paused and looked at him. At that point, I wiped my eyes. And in my head, I was like, it looks as if maybe, just maybe, this guy is making sense. And he spoke more to me. That academically, you're sound. I've heard you talk. I've heard you, I've read some of your writings. You write poems, you write stories. I started when I was younger, but I never took it seriously until now. You have all this going for you. You just need to come out of your shell. You need to put more force and more life into who you are. All those years ago that you didn't die, God had a purpose for saving your life. God had a reason for you not going that day on that road. God had a reason that it didn't end on that road. That some people didn't go through half of that accident and they didn't make it. You had fluid in your brain. But here you are. One of the brightest young women I've met in my life. And did you know, I don't know how that happened, but that moved something in me that day all those years ago. And that was the turning point for me, Charlene. That was it. That was it. He connected with me somehow, and everything he was telling me connected with me that day. Nobody had ever nobody had ever pushed my values to me. I couldn't see that I had values by myself. It took that man speaking to me that day to draw out the values for me from within. And I thank God he made me see it. You know what I did from that day, Shirley? What I did, I became a new person. People were shocked at my transformation from first semester, year 2.
So not to disconnect you, but if you can just listen to what you're saying, one of the persons who were fighting against you, Kimi, was you. And you see, once you had that person who placed you in front of the mirror, asked you the pertinent questions, pulled you out of your shell, once you stopped fighting against yourself, you realized your potential. Would you agree?
Exactly, Shirley. Exactly. Everybody has potential in them. It just needs a little bit of digging. And I bless God that he used that mentor at that time to dig deep for me. And I met him halfway. And that was just the turning point for me. And rightly, like you said, I was my own enemy. I was the one fighting myself because I did not see any good in myself. I was always beating myself up. But there was a lot of gold in me. Let me put it that way. There was a lot of gold in me that nobody could harness for me. I had to dig and look for it by myself. But thank God for his help. I eventually found the gold. First semester, year 2, from then on, I took deliberate actions. I'm always talking about actions. I'm always talking about steps. And just like he said, it starts and it ends with you. It's what you call yourself that other people will call you. It's how you push yourself forward that other people will push you forward. Nobody can carry you for you. Nobody except you. If you're waiting for anybody to do that, sorry, ma'am, sorry, sirs, nobody would do that for you. What I did, I rebranded myself. I became a new me. I went to the market. I started it from the physical. My old clothes, because I felt I wasn't anything. I used to wear ill-fitting clothes. I just didn't take care of myself. I did not bother. But when he had dug deep and helped me dig out my potentials, I started caring about myself. I started caring about the way I looked. Because like one of my good people will say, your vibe, it attracts your tribe. Is what you push out that people will give back to you. I just rebranded myself, went to the market, got new clothes, got new shoes, got a lot of things outwardly. After working on myself inwardly, that was it. And by the time we resumed school, the next semester, Charlene, I was a whole new me. The faculty noticed.
Wow.
Closed by faculty. And there was now buzz. And you know what the buzz was, Charlene? What is even wrong with this girl's face? Who does she think she is? Because I exuded so much confidence at that point. I had seen it and had taken it, and it was now dwelling in me. Now I had more male friends than female friends because of the confidence I started exuding. People wanted to be around me. People wanted to hear what I had to say. People wanted to associate with me. You know, earlier I had told you that I was that articulate with notes and all that. My notes, people were dragging for my notes in class, making photocopies of my notes in class. Because they knew that whatever the lecturer said, I would get almost everything. I became a brand new me, a totally brand new me. I'm not saying I didn't have other experiences. There was a particular experience I had, and in one of my stories, I wrote it. That was before my transformation. I was coming to school one day. One of my classmates was on the line. We're waiting for campus shuttle. I just want to address here that as human beings, we need to be sensitive to other people's plight and not speak anyhow, because you never can tell what the other person is going through. No, then before I became the brand new me, I always used to walk looking down. I never lifted up my face. I used to bump into people because I always didn't used to lift up my head because I didn't have that confidence at that time. I was walking down the line to get on the campus shuttle line, and I heard my name. That was when I looked up. It was a classmate. She just pulled me into the line in front of her and said, I should, this is in one of my stories on LinkedIn, that I should be in front of her. I argued, I'm like, I do not want to jump here. She's like, come into the line. It's not bother and all that. And from behind, the next thing I heard in my mother tongue, I'm sure if that lady knew that I was of the same ethnic extract as she was, she would have been more sensitive. She said, who allowed that girl with the bent mouth that her eye is paining her to enter the line? Shirley, I almost died. I cried all the way to school. People rose up. People stood and fought my cause that day, but the damage had been done. I had to go back to this because I just wanted to make people aware that your words need to be seasoned with salt. People are going through things. If you do not walk a mile in their knickers, you won't know what they're going through. Imagine if after that incident, maybe had become so depressed or had gone to commit suicide. So we need to actually be careful. Back to after my transformation, I became a whole new me. I had more friends. I became more vibrant. I became more lively. I could answer questions in class. I could speak with boldness. I could speak with confidence. And I had such a protection that people were now asking, like I said, what is wrong with her? Who does she think she is? Because I had found myself, Shirley. We need to find ourselves. If you don't find yourself, nobody will find yourself for you. I found myself. And that was the beginning of my transformation, Shirley.
That was important for the transformation to be realized. You. We continue to tell people that, listen, the biggest stumbling block you will ever face is yourself. Because if you think it, if you believe it, then so is it. You have to remain hopeful. You have to remain persistent, when it comes to you. Many of us are hard on ourselves and we allow people's perception of us to be our reality. So for you, Kimi, you removed the biggest stumbling blocks ever, because there and then it didn't stop people from saying things. It didn't stop people from looking at you funnily. But what it stopped was you from saying the very same things and looking at yourself the very same way others were looking at you. And so when you realize your potential, when you realize that you are a beautiful, beautiful woman, no one was able to put you down. Kimi, now that you have jumped the hurdles, and like I said before the break, the hugest hurdle was your hurdle that you placed in front of you. Know that you have jumped the hurdle. Know that you have transformed. Know that you have rebranded yourself. How now do you stay motivated?
Okay, Charlene. The greatest motivation for me is God. That's the greatest motivation for me at this moment. And after that, the will to make a positive impact. For me, the definition of success is the value you add to the person or persons within your environment. If you don't add value, you're nothing. It's not about the money you have. It's not about the wealth. It's not about anything you have.
Mm-hmm.
How do you affect people around you? That's where I'm at the moment. At this point, that singular incident I described at the last time when the lady spoke and said demeaning things to me. One of the things I picked up then was what made me go into the career that I do today. One of the things I picked up there that I encountered that I vowed to always use as a yardstick and as a measure for myself was empathy. Put yourself in other people's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to listen to other people. Attend to other people like it was you that was in their shoes. Excuse me. And that was what motivated me to be a customer service professional. I am a customer service professional. I love making people happy. I love giving excellent service and allowing seamless service delivery. A customer satisfaction is my satisfaction. If the customer is not satisfied, I am not satisfied.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm not satisfied. The customer for any business, individually or in any kind of business, is king. If you do not treat your customers right, they walk out the door. And one of my favorite slogans in my over the years as a customer service person is your customer, a happy customer is a walking advert. One word from a satisfied customer is better than you going to any advertising agency. They will so sell you.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
That's where I am at my career. I do customer service training as well. And on the line, I'm also an inspirational and motivational speaker as well. At this point in time,
You're also on LinkedIn. Could you share your LinkedIn account with listeners?
okay, on LinkedIn, you can find me as Oluwakemi Shiba, ICSN, because I'm a member of the Institute of Customer Service of Nigeria. Oluwakemi Shiba, my name, ICSN. And you're on my list, and you can read my stories, my customer service. I'm a customer service storyteller. I use my to tell what customer service really is and what poor service is so that you know the difference.
Wow. Kimi, for persons who has gone through similar situation, it might not be an accident that caused their face to look different. It might not be, it could be something completely different, but it enables similar treatment, similar reaction from persons who just don't understand your pain and choose to be mean instead of being kind. For those persons, what is your advice? How would you advise them to stay grounded, to be happy, and to know that they need to be strong in order to come out of that mental state of mind?
Thank you, Charlene. The most important thing that I learned along my journey is it starts and ends with you. Only you. Nobody has the right to your happiness. Nobody has the right to your happiness. It's what you allow people, it's how you allow people view you and see you. That's how they'll take you. If you hold your head high, no matter what it is, mine was an accident. There's so many other kind of hard knocks in life. I call those hard knocks coconuts. I wrote something about it a few days ago. For me, I picked up my coconut. I pulled off the shell. I broke it, picked up some pieces of coconut, ate some, and used some to do something else. Basically, I'm trying to say that whatever life throws at you, academically, financially, spiritually, career-wise, your family, some families are going through a lot of hardship. Whatever life decides to throw at you, breathe. Take a step back. Leave the moment. If you need to get away from it all, get away from it all for a bit. But not run away. Get away from it all for a bit. Don't run away. Then come back with a clear head and face the challenges headlong. Nobody can fight your battles for you. You start with God to fight your battles, and you end it with yourself. Whatever the challenges are, no challenge, it might take a while, it might take some time, but no challenge is insurmountable. The highest mountains in the world, one of the highest mountains in the world, I think, is Kilimanjaro. But I think I have read and heard about it that people have climbed to that summit. So if people can climb to the top of the highest mountain in the world, you can actually also climb on top of any situation that life throws at you. Mine was an accident. I could have died, but I am here today. I actually got married. I never thought I could. I have 2 wonderful children. I never thought I would. The day I got married, I was just looking out of the window. Would my husband come? Would he come? Would he come? Or would he run away? Would he disappoint me? But he showed up. When we're cutting the cake, when we're doing so many other things, what they do during engagement ceremonies and all that. I kept looking at the man that, am I dreaming? And I kept pinching myself.
Wow.
I heard, when I was doing my NYC, I actually heard a conversation about myself. I was climbing up the staircase. 2 married couples, and they were saying they felt sorry for me, that who was going to marry me. They didn't know I was coming up the stairs. When they noticed I was there, they stopped talking. I could feel the shame on their faces. I ran into the ladies and I wept my eyes out and I said, God, is this what you have for me? Well, last, he had something that I never could imagine. But when my husband was coming towards me, I told him, sir, I do not believe this is going to go anywhere. Some people have fun. I remember when I was going out with the love of my life that I thought I was going to get married to then. His friends convinced him that what was he doing with somebody like that? That was my tag then. That how can you be seen with somebody like that? Don't you know that she's a dent on your reputation? And he left me. So when my husband came around, I was like, Mister, if you're going to leave me too, the door is wide open. Because I didn't believe that he was going to go through with it. A lot of people didn't believe that he was going to go through with it. But I got beauty from the ashes. I got married. And I have 2 beautiful children today. I had a wonderful career in the bank. The bank took a chance on me, with me rather. There's so many things that people like with what happened to me go through. Maybe in subsequent, if I have another chance to be on your show, Sherlyn, I'm going to share issues with inclusion. I've gone for interviews that I know that, well, to be modest, I can say that I did well. But I could see the funny looks that I was given and I was never called back. But that stopped me. The bank gave me a chance and I was there for 13 years. There is no challenge that is insurmountable. As long as you're living, there is always a second chance. And it starts and it ends with you. Do not allow anybody to tell you otherwise. It might look daunting. It might look like you can't do it. But when you sit back and you breathe, it will fall into place and it will make sense eventually. And you can get up and go.